depending on the restaurant, it would go for at least 160. Hey everybody, what's going on? Tim here from the Lancaster Smokehouse. Today, we're making one of the all-time most favorite, most delicious French bistro dishes. We're making steak frites, French fries, steak, sauce, delicious, yummy, yummy, in my tummy. Let's go. The French fries, everyone's favorite part. Let's not lie. So we've got some really good potatoes. It's a little bit time consuming, but I promise you that it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna make really crispy, tender, delicious, golden, awesome French fries. That was pretty cool.
But you dropped it.
Well, I have a pot of oil here. We have a beautiful russet potato. And then right here we have a bowl, 1 part water, 1 part white vinegar, and then some ice cubes. First thing we need to do is we need to peel our potatoes. I like the look of a peeled potato. If you don't want to peel them, skip this stage. Don't peel them, who cares? You probably don't need a video on how to peel potatoes, but I'm gonna show you anyway, because as a matter of fact, there is a right way to do it that goes a little bit quicker. So the first thing you do is you're just going to take your peeler and you go all the way around. So you get 1 long strip, and then working from the top, you now pull down to get off that excess skin. Okay? Now you know. Beautifully peeled russet potato. What's that? You want me to turn you into a French fry? Oh, good. Scent is important with your potatoes. If it's me and my fiance and we have 2 other people coming over, maybe I'm gonna do like 8 potatoes or so. So we've got our potatoes in the vinegar water. We're gonna put it through this mandolin. You can use a knife and cut them by hand. Picture a McDonald's French fry. That's a little bit what we're aiming for. If this were cooked, it would be saying,
"I'm from McDonald's. Dunk me in some sweet and sour sauce."
And then they're gonna go back into that water for a little bit. We're just gonna make sure that our oil is set to the right temperature. We want it around 275 to 300 to blanch. So all that we're trying to do is cook the potatoes all the way through, giving them as little or the least color as possible. We're just going to take a good handful and really let it drain. And I'm gonna see if I can get away with doing about half of my potatoes per batch, which means I'm only gonna need 2 batches. And remember, I filled my oil halfway so that ideally the oil's not going to come up anywhere past the top and burn my kitchen down. So get your spider and just kind of mix them up a bit, and it's not going to take long at all because they were so thinly cut. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I know when my potatoes are done? When in doubt, taste one. We're not quite there yet. So I'm going to say this is probably going to take about 4 minutes or so. All of our potatoes have now been blanched. They're on our baking sheet here, and we have lined with paper towels. What we want to do next, we're going to give it probably an hour or so in the freezer. And that drastic change in temperature from frozen to hot oil, that is going to be a big contribution to how crispy these French fries get. So let's put these in the freezer. And while they're in the freezer, we're going to work on the next part of this meal, which is the steak. When in doubt, I say let's get to it. So let's get to it. Get a ribeye, get a New York strip, get a filet, whatever you like. We have a rib steak, AKA a tomahawk, baby. Woo! It's really thick. It's about a 2-inch cut. This was about $40. If you do it in a pasta dish or with steak frites like we're doing today, this will feed 4 people easily, so it's not that bad of an investment. We're using a reverse sear method, which means oven first, sear second. So get that onto a baking sheet lined with foil like I have today, and then put on top of that a cooling rack. I want to make it super, super intense beefy. I'm going to season it with beef bouillon seasoning. As far as this steak is concerned, we're going to pretend that this is salt. You can go really, really liberally on it. So even more than you would with salt on a steak this big and this thick. Probably a tablespoon. Flip it on the other side. Oh yeah, there you go. So now I'm done seasoning my steak. I'm happy with that, making sure it's kind of even throughout the whole way. I have an oven preheated to 325 degrees. I'm gonna pop this in the oven, probably somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes until the internal temperature registers 105 degrees. Do the reverse sear method, put it in the oven, you know exactly what it's gonna be cooked to, and then you just pull it out when it's done. Oh mama, there's still a ton of give there, which means it's nice and rare. We're gonna let it rest a few minutes. I got the grill outside, turned on to high heat. I'm talking as hot as you can get it. All right, let's go outside and sear this puppy off. But not my puppies. We're gonna grill it for 30 to 45 seconds aside just to get some really nice grill marks, get a lot of that caramelization on the beef. Make sure you get every side, the top, the bottom, the fat cap. Let those flames and let that heat do its thing. Doesn't take a lot of time, but this is going to add a lot of flavor to your steak. We're just gonna let it rest for as long as it takes to prep and finish the rest of the meal. You are not going to have to worry about over resting your steak. It's just gonna make it that much more juicy and delicious. Okay, so I just pulled my cooling and blanched fries out of the freezer. You can let them go overnight. You don't have to, as long as they're really, really cold. My oil's really hot. It's about 370 degrees. So we're gonna start with a small batch just so we can kind of get an eye on that temperature. We don't want it to be too dangerous and overflow. So put a little bit more in, but not too much because the temperature is dropping pretty rapidly. If it doesn't dip below like 350, I'm gonna be happy with it. So we've got our first batch of frites and they have turned out golden and delicious and crispy. Just listen. They are perfect. So we're gonna hit them with a little bit of salt. And we're gonna do that in a few batches until our whole lot is done. We'll take the lot. Very flour. We are going to make this really nice pan sauce. I would call this a steak au poivre sauce. I'm just gonna start with a little bit of butter. So we're just getting like a tablespoon or so. And while that is heating up, we are going to mince some shallots, some shallots. Whenever I make dinner, I use lots and lots of shallots. Very flour. All right, so we've got 3 medium to smaller size shallots, and we're just going to let those cook down with just a little pinch of salt, a little bit of pepper. And if I were doing a steak that I would be pan searing or pan frying, I would be using that surface to make this sauce. So next up, we are going to add a little bit of brandy, cognac. If you don't have either, use red wine, nobody's gonna know. About a 1/4 cup. Now we're just gonna let the alcohol cook off. We're deglazing the pans.
Spill the alcohol.
You say jump, I say how high. Oh, that's not pleasant. For most of that liquid and most of that alcohol to evaporate, it's gonna take like a minute. I think we're ready. We're gonna go in with our beef stock, about 3/4 of a cup. And now we're just gonna let that reduce. And while it's reducing, we are going to add a lot of black pepper. And I'm gonna kind of open up my pepper mill a little bit here so it's a little more coarse. And we are just gonna go to town. I promise you we're gonna be here for a long time. Now I'm just gonna fish out some capers. And you don't have to get too fine this part. I'm just giving it a quick run through with my knife. And now that is going to go in there. All right, so our sauce now has gone down to a pretty nice consistency. We had reduced most of the liquid involved in it. We are going to just kill the heat, grab your mom's favorite whisk, start mounting it with some butter. So that just means off heat, cold butter that I have cubed up already, and whisk it in until you're happy with it, until the consistency is there. And this is how you add butter to a sauce without it being greasy. So this is a little bit on the thinner side, but I am gonna let it kind of cool down a little bit and let it thicken up. But when it's time to plate our final dish, I think this is gonna be the perfect consistency. It's gonna be really nice. Let's taste it. Almost like French onion soup if it were concentrated. That's awesome. Okay, sauce is done. Let's carve up this bad boy. So very simple. All you need to do is take the bone and lift it up, and then take your knife and follow the bone all the way down. So set the bone aside. We want to keep that for garnish to make it look impressive. Grain is running like this, so we're gonna cut against it. So you just want to cut it nice and thin. Oh mama, look at that. All the way through, it is cooked super evenly. Look at that fat cap. Woo! That is a beautiful tomahawk steak, cooked perfectly, medium rare, wall to wall. We have the steaks cooked, fries are done, sauce is done. All we have to do now is assemble. So get yourself a platter, take your fries, and literally just make a giant mound on the cutting board. Just like that. Next up, we're gonna take our tomahawk steak, and we are just going to transplant it right from that cutting board on top of our fries. Get your bone in there too. And then next we've got what I'm calling our steak au poivre sauce, and we're just gonna ladle that right over top of everything. Oh, what the hell, let's just pour it. And then we've got some chives draining over top of the whole thing. Touch of Maldon salt, and that's just gonna go right on top of our steak. And then last but not least, you got a little good, You don't have to do this, but this is some Alabama white barbecue sauce. Check out our previous video to see how we made this. Serve this on the side with our steak so we can dip it in. So there you have it. My steak frites, crispy, salty little French fries, beautiful steak au poivre sauce, and the masterpiece, tomahawk rib steak. Enjoy.